Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our LHC Reach Out webinar. My name is Josie Gaitan, and I work for Reach Out, a nonprofit organization in all the Inland Empire. We would like to say this webinar is going to be in English, translated into Spanish. Este webinar va a ser en inglés y va a estar traducido en español. Si gustan llamar al número 978-990-5180 y tienen que marcar 3126-620. Está en su invitación que le llegó. Also, this webinar is a safe place for people to express their opinions and beliefs. Please, that requires respect and empathy. Today, we will be talking about who is the current urgency in the schools and talking about the equity and justice. Community members should also unite and try to communicate and participate with all the organizations and communities and parents. Do you feel like issues of diversity have become the point of being invisible, sorry? What is our rate today? In our webinar, our speakers will answer all your important questions at the end of his speech, or during the speech, you could be putting your questions in the chat, and we will give them to him. Joining us today is Richard Martinez, is an exclusive director. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Oh, I am so sorry. Wow. I am sorry. So joining us today will be Richard. He is an inclusive director for Center of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusive Excellence at Azusa Pacific University. He designed and facilitates and developed opportunities for facility and staff, including learning, environmental. Richard has facilitated staff and guests as they address issues arising the diversity and clarity culture. He experienced in education, including teaching, schools, directors, districts, and county offices. Also with us is Mika Planeter, and she also with Azusa Pacific. Now we will give the floor to Richard Martinez. Welcome, Richard, and thank you very much for joining us today and bringing us this topic. So it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for everyone joining us online today. And just as I was going online, I hear mowers and different machinery outside my window. So hopefully you can still hear me okay. And that's the joy of virtual time together. So God bless you all. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Let
me share my screen.
And the title of my presentation today is Sí se puede. Yes, we can. And on the next slide, you'll see your reach out vision. And I thought that it really connected well to reach out. And so on slide 2, you'll see that I went online to your reach out page, and you can advance to the next slide. And in the reach out, you said that reach out is dedicated to embracing communities. And that is how I feel Sí se puede speaks to me, because I'm a child of the 60s. I know I'm an old guy. But I remember growing up with Cesar Chavez, and he influenced my life greatly, and I admired him greatly. And I remember that as my family looked up to him in his leadership, it gave me hope. He gave me hope. And so Sí se puede is yes, we can. And I think it's particularly important today that we are amidst so much chaos in our system, systematic racism in our system, our Black brothers and sisters being murdered in the streets or in their homes, and people of color, Latinos, Latinx, our Asian brothers and sisters, people of color, indigenous peoples everywhere. We are realizing now more than ever that we need to have a voice, and people need to hear our voices. So I went to your website, and I love what you said is that you're dedicated to embracing communities to strengthen the human bonds that enable our communities to grow. And so that's what I bring to you today, is talking about how we can have a voice, how we can listen to each other through cultural proficiency communication skills, and how we can use those skills to take action. So here's another picture of Cesar Chavez. We could go to the next slide. And this was his rallying cry in 1972. So I noticed in your slide that Reach Out started in 1969. And
Yes.
so this is very connected, because at the core of the work that we all are doing, for me, it emerged out of the 60s, and that social justice and the unrest that I experienced during that time, but then also knowing that our voices are so important. So let's go to the next slide. And in Cesar Chavez, what he was doing with the United Farm Workers is that he united the group of farm workers around issues that mattered in the workplace, in the farms, in the fields, and he united people. He had a way of bringing people together, along with Dolores Huerta. And my question to us throughout my presentation with you today is, where's the urgency now? Where's the urgency now in our schools, in our institutions? So Dolores Huerta would say we have to convince each other that we have power. We have to convince each other that we have a voice. And she would say, and she says in this quote, this is what they can do by participating, by taking action to make change. And that when we participate, then that's when we get our sense of power. And that's when we can make a difference in our world. So on the next slide, what we're going to do is take a moment out. Really, it's a moment of remembrance. And it's a moment in which we can look at this new video, and the video link is on the picture. So when you click on the video, rather when you click on the picture, the video link will pop up. But you see a picture of George Floyd here, and you also see a picture of Kedron Bryant, who sings, "I Just Want to Live." And then there's also a spoken word about the times we're living in right now. It's just, you know, it can be very overwhelming. And I'll speak for myself. It's an overwhelming time as a Latino male, waking up every morning, and I make it a point to keep up with the news, but sometimes I tell myself maybe I shouldn't even watch the news because it's so upsetting. But I need to know what's going on. I need to be informed. So this video clip will just remind us of all the lives that have been lost. And let's just take a moment of remembrance and listen to this video and watch the video. You get sound? Do we have sound, audio? Hmm. Huh, why is there not sound? Does anybody have sound on theirs?
God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
as I was intruded on, being perceived as an intruder. My place of rest turning into my rest in peace as my soul silently slipped into the night. No people there to protect my innocence. I was proven through college, claimed praises to pull people up, but was put down by a false perception. Do you see me? Or because of the color of my skin, you see a criminal, deserving quick executions, but slow explanations from a system designed to keep me killed. I sit behind the wheel, just as intimidated by the world as the world is intimidated by me. I calmly begin speaking, sensing tensions peaking. 7 shots, I'm bleeding while screaming, I wasn't reaching. Do you know me? Or do I become prey when I step into your territory? I wasn't a baseball player, so I didn't know that on my home run I'd be going, gone. That's wrong. Is this life? But your silence on this matter is deafening. I was playing games with real shots rang, real blood stains, real pain, but it's all the same, and I'm tired. I'm tired of being overwhelmed. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of shouting for justice, but seeing just-ish. I'm tired of trying to catch my breath. All hate is nearly on my neck. I just want to live. Let me be.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind every day, I'm being called to this parade. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live. I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, when I look around and I see what's being done to mankind every day, I'm being called to this parade. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Thank you, Kedron Bryant. And as we go to the next slide, there's such turmoil in our world right now. As the spoken word stated, I'm just tired. I'm overwhelmed. Trying to catch my breath.
Are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
the video keeps playing into the next.
What happened?
and emails.
I think the video is still playing online, and it goes to the next.
Okay, let me go to the previous.
This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's.
Thank you. So these are difficult times, and as I was thinking about this remembrance, starting off with George Floyd, I think about all the people of color living in the margins, and in Latino communities, in Black communities, Asian communities, our indigenous peoples I mentioned, LGBTQ. There are people who feel marginalized and who feel they don't have a voice. So we're going to talk today, or I guess I'm doing all the talking, about how do we communicate with one another. And so I'm one of the authors of Cultural Proficiency. I have the honor of working with Dolores Lindsay, Randy Lindsay, and Keith Myatt. And our book is called Culturally Proficient Coaching. It's a second edition that just came out in January. And in this book, we talk about how we can communicate better with each other around issues of equity, social justice, racism, systemic racism in our world. So let's go ahead and move to the slide where it said past the spoken word. Let's go past that one, and then we'll go to the formula. So as I was preparing for our time together, I found this formula in my files, and I haven't used it lately. I used to use it exclusively with my classrooms when I was teaching in the School of Education at APU. And when I found this formula again, I thought this is really even more relevant now, because this is a formula for change. And so if you look at this, the C equals change, and then the D of the formula is dissatisfaction with the current state. So right now we're seeing a lot of turmoil, and also dissatisfaction that we're seeing in the rioting, and I don't condone rioting and violence, but what I would support is the peaceful demonstrations. So we're seeing the dissatisfaction with our current state, and that's very visible right now. But you'll notice there are other parts of this formula that are important too, and that we all need this, all the different pieces in order to equal change. So the next one is a vision for a better way, and I'll put the next two together, a vision for a better way, but also the first steps towards that vision. And I would say right now we're on the doorstep of that. We're on the doorstep. We have the dissatisfaction, we have the horrific racism that we're seeing blatantly in the streets and throughout our nation. But now the next step for us in our communities, and this is individually as well as collectively, is what do we do? How do we take action? What are our first steps? And what's our vision? So we need a vision to move us forward in order to take those next steps. And you'll see in this little formula here, all of that has to be greater than the resistance, because there will be, and we've seen it over and over again in the news every day, that there's a tremendous resistance to change. In fact, I would almost say there's almost another kind of formula, that for everything that happens in the news, there's a counter narrative that says either it didn't happen or it really didn't happen in the way that was presented in the media. And so there's always this dissonance. Our vision for change collectively, especially for communities and for Reach Out or for universities like Azusa Pacific, is to have a vision for our next steps. So let's look at the next slide will show the cover of our book. So this is the reference that I'm drawing from today. So let's look at the rest of this next slide here. And in this next slide is, so what is cultural proficiency? So you can go ahead and click on through the different points of the slide, because I have them just coming in sequentially, but you could just keep going all the way to the end. Okay, that's good. So cultural proficiency is a mindset. So to be culturally proficient is to be culturally aware. And it's within us individually. So how am I aware of my own culture, my own background, my own beliefs, my own value systems? But then also it's a way of being to know where I am, but also to be open to learning from others. And we give tools in our book, and basically the tools are communication skills, where we say we need to take the time to listen, pause, maybe we paraphrase what somebody is saying, and we ask important questions. And we go through this cycle of communication in order to understand each other deeply and understand someone else. It's that old proverb is you don't really know somebody until you walk a mile in their shoes. So in order to listen and absorb, we understand much better someone else's situation. And hopefully back to that vision for a future and for next steps of action, that last bullet is how do we, in terms of our community work or in terms of our university work, how do we impact policies and practices? And that's tough. That's hard. Because one of my mentors, and you saw her name earlier in the formula slide, Suzanne Bailey, she taught me early that what's difficult for change is that so many ideas have become concretized, like concrete. They're like set in concrete, and it's so hard to break that down and then rebuild again. But frankly, as I talk to you as my friends, I think that's our challenge, is looking at policies and practices at the organizational level and our values and behaviors at an individual level that enable these cross-cultural interactions to take place. My grandparents had a saying too, is that when you point to somebody, remember there are 3 fingers that point back to you. And that always made such an impression on me, because back to the news again, and I'm so absorbed with just what's going on today. I guess it's easy to point to others and say, hey, look at what they're doing wrong. Or look over there, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? So individually, the question still remains, and those 3 fingers are pointing back at me. So what am I going to do? Let's go to the next slide. So I've emphasized the need for self-reflection. And so I think one of the key points that we like to emphasize in our book is cultural proficiency isn't something I'm going to do to you. I'm not going to force you to be culturally proficient, because I guess that's just impossible. That's not going to happen. I can't force anybody to change. But what can happen is that we can help people to reflect on their own behaviors, reflect on where they are individually, in order to see the world through new eyes. And I'll say that a lot too. You notice I wear glasses and my eyes just popped out like that because now I can't see you, right? But what culturally proficient tools do for us is that they help us to see the world through new eyes. And hopefully, as we're all putting on new glasses, we'll be able to see a new vision for the world that's much better than the one we have right now. So next slide, it talks about cultural proficiency being a worldview. We don't see cultural proficiency as being just isolated, but we see it as an appreciation for what we have now in our individual cultures, but then how can we work with each other, appreciate each other? And you see that second slide, it talks about being intentional. And it's this inside-out approach. And I'm kind of a broken record now. And so for a speaker, that's a little bit dangerous, because people might say, he says the same thing over and over again. But it's so important that the reflection has to take place inside of us first, then to see the world through new eyes, and then ask our questions about, so what are our steps, our next steps, and our vision for the future? So the next slide emphasizes rapport. So all of this that I've been talking about is working with each other, understanding each other. That's not easy, is it? Especially when our world has become so polarized. Our world has then become this us versus them mentality. You're either with me or you're against me. And either I'm going to work for my end or try to find a way that you're not going to be successful so that I can be raised up. And there's something wrong with that. As you know, well, you may or may not know, so Azusa Pacific is a Christian university. So I'll interject my own faith a little bit for you right now. But the Lord has a scripture called the greatest commandment. And Jesus says in the greatest commandment that we're supposed to love the Lord with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our strength, and with all of our mind. But he doesn't stop there. This is the cool part of that greatest commandment. He says, now you're supposed to love others in that same way. Treat others in the same way. And go, wow. I mean, using an old 60s term, that's mind-blowing. It's like, how can we do that? Especially today, where we're in this polarized either-or mentality. So in this slide, we just emphasize to take the time to build rapport with each other. And build trust over time. So, okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of a timeout in a moment, and we'll check to see if you have some questions for me. If you've been taking notes, and you don't have to, but if you've been taking notes, or if we were in a seminar room together, I'd be taking a pause, and probably if we were in a seminar room together, we would have all sorts of different times that we could be talking to each other. So it's a little bit hard over as, a virtual reality kind of a thing right now. But what I'd be telling you about now in my presentation is this. If you're taking notes, these are important notes to take on this slide right now. So if you take a golden nugget with you of change or for change, these are some golden nuggets right here. So let me just go over them a minute. So in order for us to get that vision for next steps, for a future that we want to have and start working on together, what's our purpose? What's our purpose? So that would be if I was sitting down with Reach Out and all of you in a room, and maybe someday I'll be able to do that. Hallelujah. Wouldn't that be neat? I'd love that. If, post-COVID, to be able to be with people again. But that would be, frankly, one of the questions I'd ask is, what's your purpose? So as you know that there's certain things that need to take place in your communities, what is your organizational purpose? What's driving you right now? And then what do you hope to achieve? So you have, since 1969, this is amazing. Since 1969, Reach Out has been a community involved organization. It's fantastic. So I'd be sitting back and going, oh, okay, what's your purpose now? Has it changed? Has it evolved? And what do you hope to achieve in the future? So right about now, too, I have all these little things I'd be doing if we were in a seminar. I call it the mall map. Of course, we can't all be going to malls right now with COVID-19, but back in way back in history, a few months ago, remember when we could go to malls and a lot of people and we walking around and looking at shops and stuff? And in most malls, there's a sign with a map. and it's a map of where all the stores are. Remember when we could shop like that? Oh my gosh, this is like ancient history. Amazing. Anyway, the mall map. So on the mall map, it has a map of where all the stores are, and there's a big arrow, and it says, you are here now. This is where you are, and it's a little picture of a person. Well, I call this my mall map question for you. Okay, so if you're taking notes again, where are you? Where are you right now? Where are you right now? Reach out. Where are you in this mall map of change? Where are you now in this mall map of, oh man, confusing times? Where are you now in navigating this weird, unexpected COVID-19 map? And where are you now in terms of, oh my goodness, systematic racism in our nation? Where are you now? So the mall map helps us know where we're located now. But then you notice the other bullets. What are our strategies for becoming better? And how will we know that we're getting better? What are our measurements? So now that helps move us towards the future. So our mall map says this is where we are now. But then collectively reach out, where do you want to be? So not knowing your organizational structure and just getting to know you now, that would be a question I would have for your leadership. That would be a question I would have for your subcommittees. And like I said earlier, with cultural proficiency, it's that internal mall map too. Where am I now? Where am I now internally in terms of my own values and beliefs? And what do I want to learn going into the future? And what's my contribution to others into the future? So before we leave this slide, I'm going to come up for air. And thank you for listening. I know it's difficult to just listen to some person just talk and talk and talk. So I don't know if you have questions in your chat, or are there any questions that are coming up? Let me know right now, and I'd love to answer them. I have a little chat window, but I don't see anything in my chat window right now. Is there anything? I can't hear you. I don't have audio. Oops.
There you go.
Oh, good. I hear
Okay.
somebody. Okay, so you have
One of the questions is, are we able to receive a copy of your PowerPoint? And
Yes.
then,
Yes.
yes, okay. I don't think we have a lot of questions. It was more.
Okay. So this is my offer to you. Reach out, especially since you've touched my heart in starting in 1969. And like I said, being a child of the 60s, I love organizations that started during that time of social justice. We'll see. Well, you have my PowerPoint. And so as you review the PowerPoint, you can look at it. You can send it to the people who are online right now. And if you have questions in the future, feel free to reach out to me through your leadership.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. That was all the questions we had.
you. Okay.
Do you want to continue or?
Yes, please. So let's go to the next slide. And so let's dig in a little bit deeper to what cultural proficiency helps us to do. Okay. So we have this backdrop, this context. I'll call it the context of confusion. I'm going to have to write that one down because that's pretty good. I like that. I don't know if I've ever said that before. Context of confusion. The context of confusion is a challenging time to live in, isn't it? Because once we feel that we're maybe getting grounded, once we feel we're kind of getting a foundation, something solid underneath our feet, something changes. It might have been even before COVID hit for you. Maybe in your own lives individually, you're kind of feeling, hey, you know, I'm getting this. Things are moving ahead. And then boom, COVID-19. Okay, then we're readjusting, we're working at home. And I pray that you're well. Okay, I should have even started with that. I know a lot of people are still struggling with COVID-19 issues, with their jobs, with their families, and making ends meet. So God bless you, and I hope that you are navigating that. So there is this context of confusion, isn't there? What cultural proficiency attempts to do for us is provide us with tools to understand the environment in order for us to move ahead. So you'll see this, and I can't go probably have time for all of this chart, but cultural proficiency helps us to move from tolerance for diversity, you see that one side, to transformation for equity. So let's just look at the first one right now. So you see on the left side, it's the destructive part of the continuum. The cultural proficiency continuum is yet another tool that unfortunately I won't have time to get into right now. It's a teaser, right? But the cultural proficiency continuum, and go back to the other chart where we were a minute, back one slide.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The cultural proficiency continuum is actually 6 points. So the first 3 points are cultural destructiveness, cultural incapacity, and cultural blindness. Those are all very negative points on a continuum. And then it transitions into the positive, pre-competence, competence, and proficiency. So on the destructive side of looking at the world, the focus is on them, other people, and their inadequacies. That's the finger pointing, okay? Those people are the problem. We're hearing a lot of that, aren't we? Or those people of color are the problem. Or they're complaining, or they're too sensitive, or they're really not experiencing systematic racism. They're just individual bad apples that we're seeing in the system. Okay, so really it's not the focus on the system, it's the people that are being impacted by the system. The focus is, and blame is put on others. But you see in competence, transformation for equity, the focus is on us and our practices. So there's a big shift there, isn't there? It's not the blame game, you're doing this wrong, you need to do that. Man, that's a shift. It's like, wait a minute, hold your horses. That's an old one, all right? Hold your horses. What should I be doing differently? What should the system be looking at? How could the system be improving? Let's look at, and then there's a whole list of things, your organization, or law enforcement, or the law system. All these pieces, we should say, hey, let's not just focus on blaming people. Let's look at ourselves and our institutions and see what we need to do differently. So I'll go to number 2, and I know I'm starting to look at my time. I don't want to run out of time. Number 2 you'll see is tolerate, assimilate, and acculturate. So if I'm just tolerating other people, I'm not really trying to understand them. I'm just, oh man, okay, I listen to you. I don't agree with you, but you know, okay, I think you need to assimilate. I think you need to blend in to the existing culture. And the subtext to that, or the sub thought to that, is you need to change. Leave your culture at the door, Latino, Latinx, male, man. Leave your culture at the door, assimilate to the main culture, and then you'll be okay. Wow. Look at the other side. But if we're looking at transformative actions for equity, then let's build up esteem, respect, and adaptation. Let me value the other person. Let me value the other culture. Let me get to know them. Let me get to know those issues at a deeper level in order to build respect. And this is real important for us because I have a lot of questions that come up in my sessions about, yeah, I understand diversity and equity, but what are you going to do about it? What actions are you going to take? So back to those key questions I asked in the previous slide, those are going to help you take action. But also, I would say the word adapt is important. How do we adapt within our system in order to move ahead with respect? So there are other points on this slide that are important, but let me go on to what a coach can do. And this is just scratching the surface. So I should have given a group apology before I even started, that all of these points that I'm presenting to you are just scratching the surface, and each one of these sections would be a seminar. So you're getting an overview of so much. So after you look at my slides, if you have questions, with your leadership, you can send me a note and I'd be glad to speak into them. So let's go to the next slide and see where we are. So in these next slides, I say, what's a coach to do? What's a coach to do? So I don't have my book with me, but in culturally proficient coaching, coaching is a term in which we are in a position to help somebody else, to listen to somebody else, to coach them, not like an athletic coach. It comes from the work from Bob Garmston and Art Costa. They're from the Center for Cognitive Coaching out of Colorado. And their cognitive coaching work was how to communicate more efficiently with others. And our cultural proficiency work was how to communicate more effectively about equity and justice. And what we did in the book is that we married the two together, cognitive coaching and cultural proficiency, in order to provide educators and community members with the tools to be able to communicate around issues of equity and justice. So when you see in my slides what's a coach to do, that's coming from the book. But really it could be what's a person to do, what's an individual to do, what's a diversity communicator to do. And so there are some steps, and I'll just glance over them and then I'll open it up to some more questions.
Okay, we're running out of time, so we'll go ahead and finish and then we'll get to the questions.
Gotcha.
Several questions.
So let me just go over these and then we'll go to questions right now.
Okay.
Is that the first step is being conscious of your own emotional state. So that's that, where are you now? The second is listening. And then when we're with each other, we look for the verbal as well as physical cues of how people are feeling. And then to respond thoughtfully by asking certain questions and probing and respecting the other person's work. And then what we call the zone of opportunity is that we look for areas in which we can assist. And then what's our intention and how do we choose appropriate action? So you'll see me kind of now zoning in now on how this, for us, impacts our actions in the future. So this is a good point, and there's some other slides that get into more details about these that you will find when you review the slide deck.
Okay.
So we have some.
I have a question for you. How do we agree upon a vision?
So there are probably many different ways in which we could facilitate that. So let me just share what I've done with groups before. So this is not the only way, but this is one way. So if we were all in a group together, reach out, I would have us have one of those big chart pads. And I'd say, okay, we do the mall map. Where are we now? So we chart out, where are we now? Where are we now? Where are we now? Then we get another chart pad and we'd say, where do we need to be? Where would we like to be? It can be short-term or long-term. So it depends on what part of the conversation we're talking about. But let's say my question to reach out would be, hey, where do you want to be in the next year? Maybe 1 to 2 years. So we chart out, chart out, chart out, chart out. So one of the groups I was working with in the past, we had the where are we now chart, and then I posted the what do we want, where do we want to be chart, and then we discussed now what's the bridge to get there. So it's another way of calling it a gap analysis. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And now let's chart out what are some initial steps that we could take to get to that desired state. And then we have a brainstorm. So we just put ideas on the chart, on the chart, on the chart. You just let the ideas flow, and then later on you go back and prioritize. Later on you go back and say this is short term or this is long term. And then that begins to at least focus your organizational minds into what next. And that's just a brief answer to that question, but that would get you started.
Okay. So we're gonna have to, if anybody else has questions, if they can put them in the chat. Is anybody interested in having Mr. Martinez, Dr. Martinez here again, because we're running out of time and he still has like half of his PowerPoint to go. But we will be able to send out your PowerPoint, and
yes.
Maybe you can come back and finish it up in a
That
couple.
is up to you, and it all depends on your group's wishes. I know you have a lot of other people that would like to speak to you, and I just want to close with thanking you.
Oh, no, thank you for all this information. It's amazing information. I really love the way you explain everything. So we need to bring you back so we could have a little bit more of the understanding of what this really gets us and where we're going forward. So thank you.
Thank you,
very
and
much for attending.
muchísimas gracias por todo, and Dios te bendiga. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we are gonna say thank you, and I'm hoping that you come back and visit us. We have a couple of, we have actually Ms. Dira from Reach Out that she wants to come and announce some of her classes that she has. So we're gonna go to the announcement. And I really appreciate taking your time, Richard, and coming and sharing all this with us. So we will ask you to come back so you can finish telling us about it and showing us more information towards this.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and sign off, and everyone have a great rest of your day. God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So if anybody else has any announcements, Ms. Dira, are you on with us? No? So I guess she's not on. I can't hear her. So I just wanted to let you know, everybody, thank you for attending this webinar. I know this was very interesting information, and we are going to invite him back to finish up his PowerPoint. If anybody is interested in receiving the PowerPoint, we will have it at our website in Reach Out. And if you want it personally for me to send it to you in an email, just go ahead and email me and ask me for it, and I will send it to you personally. But if not, our website is going to be on it this coming week. So we'll put it up tomorrow as soon as we have it up. And we also have the recording of this webinar. So if you are interested in just having the whole webinar, go ahead and let me know. Thank you very much. We will have a couple of more announcements. Just by next week, we are not going to have a webinar. So we'll have a webinar on the 17th, and we'll have Corey Jackson, Kim, and I can't pronounce her last name. She's from Mental Health County of Riverside, Luz Gallegos from TODEC, and Diana Fox from Reach Out. So we'll be having a conversation of what is happening in County of Riverside with the mental health and what are they doing about it. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and I really, really appreciate you guys taking your time and coming and joining us. And if you have any suggestions of anything that you want us to have in the webinar, any kind of information, we are looking forward to bringing more speakers. We're having, in a couple of more weeks, we're having a presentation of the different kinds of drugs that are out in our community. So anything that you guys want to talk about or hear more information about, just email me or call me, and I will let you guys bring more information for you guys. So thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful afternoon and a long weekend. So I'm gonna put up my information. If you guys would love to either email me. I'm trying to work this by myself, so thank you for everything. And my information, I hope it's up. Can you guys see it? Well, it came out in Spanish, but there it is. So thank you very much. And I really appreciate it for everybody coming and joining us. So we'll have more the following week on the 17th. Everybody have a wonderful weekend and a long weekend and a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.